Hey everyone, it's me. I'm coming on. Today I'm going to be talking about gifts. Okay, I think it's highly important. I think a lot of people need to be aware of this. And I get asked a lot in my profession with the higher self channeling how I knew that this was what I needed to do. And a lot of people ask me, how will I ever figure out what I'm supposed to do with this life? So I figured, I was like, you know what? Let's break this down. And maybe I'm going to be that voice of, inspiration for you today. If you haven't been listening to the universe, sometimes people fill in that spot. And I guess maybe that's what I'm here to present today. So if you're wondering what were my gifts or what are my gifts or what am I supposed to do on this planet, I hope this helps, okay? So the first thing I'll use myself as an example. You have to do the work yourself. So if you have a pen and paper, I think it would be very important to get them out right now, or you could replay this back and do it later, but this is very, very important. So what I will say is that if you're trying to figure out what you're destined to do here, okay, we got to take it back. Take me back, you got to go back in time, like very far. So I would say that this starts off in elementary school. Okay, elementary, my dear Watson. So the reason why I'm saying elementary is because these are gifts that were naturally coming forth through you at a very young age, and that's what you have to go back and pay attention to. So for myself, at a very young age, I knew that at helping others learn, okay? I had this thing about tutoring or teaching. I even used to do this as early as 4 years old when I used to teach my cousin how to do cursive because her school didn't teach her. Okay? So tutoring or teaching was in my blood. It was just something I loved to do. I'm saying I didn't realize this as time went on because our jobs don't really afford us the use of these gifts, but it was something I was good at. The next one I would say is my ability to do things like mediation or transmutation. So as a very young child, I even noticed on the schoolyard that I was always breaking up fights. I was always defending the small guy from the bullies. And I was always somebody that was transmuting or showing people, again, back to the tutoring thing, how to transmute a situation. Instead of looking at things one way, to look at it both ways and find that silver lining that would allow for that mediation to occur. So I knew that from a very young age, that was another given gift that I had. Okay. So the next thing I realized as a young child, and trust me, this took me time to figure out for myself, okay? Whenever there was a group project presented, okay? Let's say there's 3 of us, 4 of us, whatever the case may be. I noticed that whenever we would have these projects, the kids that I was involved with were like, I'll do whatever it takes. I will do whatever the assignment is, but please, don't make me stand up and talk in front of the class. So naturally, I was like, oh, I'll do it. I have no problem public speaking or talking in front of the class. The other 3 persons were so happy about this that they would do the whole project and I wouldn't have to do anything but present it. Not that I was a lazy student, just why not, right? Another gift I had, public speaking. I was not scared of it. It's still in my blood, as you guys can see. You have to understand, me coming out of a law career for so long and not having to utilize any of these skills in my adult life, it was really interesting that once I came back onto my spiritual journey and path, that these toolbox God-given gifts or universe or creator given gifts are already there, and they are just who you are. These are all my gifts. I like to mediate, transmute, I'm an empathizer, and I'm an activist. That's where the whole helping out the little guy comes from with the bullies. So I'm just giving you guys my list, okay? And that's why I think you guys need to spend some time. And what I think helps also is to ask your oldest friends or your family members, because they might see those skills in you a lot easier than you ever did, or that you didn't even pay attention to because they're just so innate. These are God-given. These are how the makeup, your makeup of essence of who you are. But the thing is that we turn a blind eye to these gifts. We don't utilize these gifts. Like, when was the last time I used a tutoring? What you will notice though is your higher self throughout your lifespan may be cluing you into these gifts had you like had you forgotten them in ways that you may not know. So like, for example, with me, I noticed that when I would go traveling, that if I was looking for a placement or a position, I naturally ended up being a teacher. Because for some reason I always ended up teaching English or teaching a cooking class or teaching something. So that was one of the skills that I ended up using, and my higher self was trying to show me that all along or throughout my situationals. Okay. The tutoring, the mediation side of me, this seemed to happen naturally in the workplace. Sometimes I'd see fights break out at the gas station, what have you. And for some reason, with the skills I have, knowing these strangers, I was able to mediate them, and I just had this innate ability to do so whenever my higher self would put me in these situations, like I said, like at the gas station, at the mall, whatever the case may be. It was just that these situations were to present to you over and over and over again what your skill sets are, or what your godly given gifts are, and so that you are reminded, so that you take heed and acknowledge what they are over and over and over again. And for the public speaking, right, I noticed that I haven't used that skill. I used to have to give speeches and whatnot in school. I've even won awards for this. But what I did notice is that when I was working in any of my careers, I always ended up having to give speeches at like Christmas parties or like events that our work would hold. So like even at events for work events, somehow I was the one always having the finger pointed. Maybe because I was a chatty person, outgoing, people automatically thought that I was good at public speaking. That is not necessarily the case, but they were right. I have no problem with it. But I'm saying, it's like I never clued in at that point that was what was supposed to be taking place for me in my life. And now that I've stepped into my purpose, I notice how I utilize these all the time. It's like your godly given gifts are designed for your path. They're going to be part of that toolbox that you use and utilize all the time. What I want to say is that this is part of part one, okay? Part one is acknowledging what they are. Part two is walking them.